Have you ever wondered what the music world looks like today? Well, I got a chance to sit down with Ed Crowe. He is Yellow Wolf's manager, and we got to talk about different parts of the music industry and what brands he is pushing. It's a very interesting conversation because those guys have been around a long, long time. So here we go. Well, I'm excited today to have Mr. Ed Crowe on the show. He has been with Yellow Wolf, managing his career for a long time now. How many years you been with Yellow Wolf?
About 6 as manager, and then altogether just everything from merch to tour manager, tour photographer for about 16 years.
Wow.
I played a little bit of almost every role, even accidentally DJ once or twice. I was just pressing cue points. There was no skill involved, but yeah, I had to play the role.
And how did y'all become so close?
We grew up together, man. We were friends when we were, 13, something like that. Met in school, and we painted graffiti together. We were buddies for a long time, and then he moved back to Alabama. I moved back to Delaware for a couple of years. We lost touch, and then I bumped back into him in Nashville. He had a show, and I bumped back into him, and we just were hanging out for a year or two, and then one day we were at a car wash, and I said, hey, man, I want to work with you. I know you're not hiring, so I'll start by walking the dogs, taking out the trash, doing anything you need to do when you're on tour, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Well, you kind of remind me of me a little bit because you kind of have that poker face. You don't know what Ed's thinking. You know, he's like, is it good or bad? I mean, I think that's a good way to manage.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you have a perspective on that and how you perceive things and how you do business?
Yeah, I think during business, to your point, it's good to have a poker face. You know what I mean? Like, I'm real big on separating business and personal. Like, even when people call my phone, it's either business or personal, and I have to draw that line. You know what I mean? And let them know if it's business, you got to schedule a call. If it's personal, when we're friends, call me and tell me your favorite color and what you did this weekend. No problem, but don't mention business. I like to keep those things very separate.
What is your overall, because when I look at your team and you know, you've got these different components, what have you seen the biggest change in the past 5 years in the music business where you've had to adapt?
I mean, see, I've juggled so many different roles. It's hard for me to really just pin down and quantify one change. Changes within our organization. When I came in as manager, I pretty much cleaned the whole house. You know what I mean? I got all new everything from attorney to CFO, business management, everything, like cleared house and reinstalled, new people to play these roles. But as far as the music business in general, I mean, I've been a manager, a producer, director, photographer, played many different roles, and I haven't been in the streaming side long enough to see the true differences that people seen since album sales and things like that. But I mean, there's definitely been some serious changes, and everybody's an artist is something I've noticed now. I got I think I got more artists following me than the regular people.
You do have a lot of talent out there. I always think about this too when I look at for comedians or whatever, and you think about Darren, when I found him, the reason I think Darren was successful, he had this unique voice, and I can pick up on that unique voice in comedy. Do you have a way of picking up on a talent to really understand where that voice hits and know they're it? Yeah, Bailey Zimmerman, that kid, he was like, they heard him sing one song. Next thing you know, he had a manager. Next thing I know, he signs. Next thing I know, he's doing an album. There's a fast track there with him. What does that sound what do you have to hear? What do you hear personally? If you find an act, what makes them stand out? That voice, what is it? What do you recognize?
Well, I have to see a passion, a hustle. A lot of times hard work beats talent, unfortunately. You know what I mean? It's not something I'm happy to report, but it is a fact. There's a lot of homeless musicians in Nashville, Tennessee who are absolutely incredible. What I look for these days is someone who believes in himself as much as I believe in him. Because, a manager or a team can believe in an artist all day long. But if the artist doesn't believe in himself, which is very common, if they don't believe in themselves, it makes our job a lot more difficult. Right. So me personally, I look for talent, but I also, to guard myself and my team, I look for someone who's consistent and does what they say they're going to do and believes in themselves. Those things are really important to me. You know what I mean? I've pushed a lot of people to land in something that didn't work out. And that's unfortunate. It sits with you when you believe in something. But to answer your question, I look for talent, man, and I'm kind of doing the same thing the industry's doing, like moving more in the direction of singer-songwriter and a little bit of the country lane and that type of thing. But just because it's a easier genre to deal with. You know what I mean? The money's good and things happen on time. But yeah, I just look for talent. Right now, I'm not looking for talent. I got my hands full.
How do you see, what is your vision? I know you've got some stuff. You got a cigar line and you got some stuff you're doing personally. I mean, what is your vision for this brand as a whole, and where do you fit in with it?
So Slamerican is, Yellow Wolf created that many, many years ago, probably 20 years ago at this point. He's said it in songs before. It's Slamerican, breed, a gutter raised with worldwide dreams. So, just basically coming from the bottom and becoming something, you know what I mean? And that's something that he's pushing and inspiring people. And it's really cool to be a part of and watch, the narrative change as he grows. And as we go into this album 45, I mean, his whole vibe has changed for the most positive. You know what I mean? It's absolutely incredible. But as Slamerican as a whole is like a culture brand. And it's something that people are a part of. They can, you know what I mean? They're part of it.
I told you the other day, I said, when I look at brands or look at acts, I think there's a lot of manufactured acts. And for me, I can tell the difference if there's been a lot of work put behind a brand compared to a manufactured brand. It's just different layers. There's a different authenticity to it. Do you feel like, like the ups and downs of the brand, do you ever get discouraged? Do you have to shift? Like if sales are down, like,
absolutely.
What do you think you have to do?
Man, I mean, you got to keep your team in order. You know what I mean? It's like one organism, right? Your whole team is like one organism. You got one weak link in the chain. I mean, the whole thing will fall apart. That's why I said in the beginning when I first came in, I cleared house just to make sure that we were starting with a clean slate. We redid our warehouse manager, the whole thing. It doesn't bother me. No, I understand there's an ebb and flow specifically in business, but it's once things start going down, I like to take a look under the hood and just see, when we go to the warehouse, what's going on, you know what I mean? Or on the bus, like who's focused, who's kind, who's carrying the weight of the brand properly, who's representing the brand properly. But no, it's not something that bothers me. I just like to find a solution and adjust.
How about stress? You have a lot of stress?
Sometimes. I mean, I've learned to deal with it. I meditate a lot, as you and I know. I do psychedelics a lot, specifically psilocybin, and that's my go-to to deal with the stress. It's like taking a soul shower. It cleans it off of me, and then I'll go deal with it a little more, get those barnacles on the ship, and then go back and do another journey in the woods. So stress, absolutely. I think if I didn't have mushrooms and a couple of other things, I study a lot, I read a lot, collect a lot of books. So I do a lot of things to curb the stress, like creative things, writing and journaling and things like that. That's how I avoid the stress, because you can't really avoid it. You just have to remedy it, because it comes with, as a lot of communication, specifically when you're juggling different topics and different emotions, different personalities, and you have to approach them all differently, and they're beeping in, so you got to switch it up. It's important to be able to navigate that properly, or it can tear you down. And for me, mushrooms and meditation.
Well, you almost come in a position where you're the dad, the mother, the father, the brother, the best friend. You have to wear all these hats. I don't think people realize that, just in the creative space, how much necessity is needed.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that? Is like that wear on you a little bit?
Honestly, I thrive in chaos. And to your point, something my mom told me years ago was like, throughout our life, we've been, mother and son, sister and brother, father and daughter. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I feel like I've been kind of wearing that for a long time. And then coming into this, it comes natural. I just don't like when people don't listen, if they hire you or sign you up to be the person that steers them in the right direction, or is the voice inside their head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I let them know sometimes I don't come in the booth and try to sing your harmonies. When I'm handling my business, stay out of my way.
Well, that is a big problem. That's one thing Brian Dorfman said to me years ago, who owns Zany's. Brian's one of my good friends. He owns Zany's. He owns Outback Presents. And we've became pretty close over the years. And he's like, he said, where get up is when people don't stay in their lanes. And that's a big problem.
Yes. Exactly.
In the entertainment business, right?
Yeah, you got too many cooks in the kitchen, and everybody's got a platform and everybody's got something to say. But like he said, just stay in your lane. As simple as that. And I'll stay in mine. I don't make suggestions on the music. I don't try to sing in the background. You know what I mean? It's important everybody plays that same role.
See Ed back there singing a cappella.
Yeah, there you go. They tell me get the hell out of the booth, man.
Yeah. In talking about the mushrooms, you know, when I saw you here in Charleston, you were talking about you felt like you had a calling and so forth. Tell me a little bit about what that calling feels like, or what you're trying to do with that.
Well, man, it all started when and I've told this story a couple times, but way back, I used to sell a little bit of weed. At one point, I guess there was a drought. Everybody was out of weed, and somebody had a couple pounds of mushrooms. I didn't know anything about them, never took them before, had no previous knowledge, no cultural knowledge, no idea that it was some form of sacrament for thousands of years. None of that. Bought them to sell them and make money. And I realized real quick, sold a couple bags and realized that people don't come back for mushrooms like they do for weed. So I got stuck with a little over a pound. And I ate that over a period of time, ate a lot of mushrooms in a short amount of time, and started experimenting with eating more mushrooms. Like, you know, me and a friend would split an ounce, which is a pretty high dose. And one day I went to the bathroom and I got sick. It made me get sick. And when I went to wash my hands and look in the mirror, I saw what looked like a translucent hole in reality opened up, like some kind of strange portal that you could still see everything on the other side. But I could see this translucent figure of like an Indian goddess. And she was dancing and she had hands all around her. We've all seen this thing I'm talking about, illustrations or in books. But I seen her in this portal, this hole in reality that opened up. And she was dancing. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to go in there. And the minute that I started to approach this hole in reality and thought to myself, I want to go in there, I felt something let me know that if you come here, you die there. You know, it was probably just a hallucination, but it scared me enough and gave me fear to where as soon as I felt the fear, the hole closed up and went away and everything was normal again. You know, I was still tripping, but it was normal. And that was gone, completely gone, like it was never there. And that was my first experience feeling like there's something more to this, more than just some kind of drug to get high on, right? Started getting more curious, and it took many years of doing it inside. And then eventually I started taking the dose higher and I had to go outside. Inside didn't work anymore. Electronics and regular things don't seem to look so appealing anymore. You know what I mean? Like when we do it out here, we lock up the phones. Like you can't have your phone, you can't have your car keys. We close the gate. It's in this specific spot in the middle of the forest. We treat it with a lot of respect, go in with a passage. You could call it a prayer, but it's not religious. It's like a spiritual thing, intention setting. And the idea is to bring value to the mushroom, learn lessons, go deep within your mind to understand things you need to iron out from other perspectives, and also bring something back to the mushroom. And in my opinion, that's integration. Go integrate the lessons that you learn and then come back to the mushroom. I've come back to the mushroom before without what I feel is proper integration. And that's when I get a quote unquote bad trip. It's almost like an elder is frustrated with you, telling you that you didn't do what you're supposed to. So you have this confusing, dark experience. But I think those things are also good to teach us.
First of all, the intentions of the shrooms, whoever grows the shrooms, I think intentions are a big thing. And then if the intentions are good, whoever grows them, then you're okay. And then you take those, and then I feel like however you feel, or with that, whatever those emotional feelings are like the sheds, the shadow that you're getting rid of during a trip. Do you feel like that's what that is?
Absolutely. And to your point of the person who cultivated them in the first place, years ago, I dabbled in that when I had time. And I would go into the room with the jars of ryeberry and mycelium and put them around me in a circle and meditate. And then other times I would go in and just laugh as hard as I could, you know what I mean, to give that energy to the mycelium. And I do agree, like I'm very cautious who I get them from, you know, and I usually try to get them from the same sources. That way it's like you're saying. You also purge, and sometimes the purge is just a sound, energy. Sometimes it's different kinds of, these things are kind of gross to talk about, but you can feel blockages being cleared because there's different textures and different tastes that come up. You know, they're very unpleasant, obviously, but you can feel it going through your body, almost releasing things. So yeah, I do believe you're shedding, you know, could be psychic baggage, you know what I mean? Could be trauma, could be generational trauma from someone that isn't even you, your grandfather, your great-grandfather. You know, there's many things you shed for sure.
Do you feel more spiritual? what do you call yourself? Do you feel like you have any type of esoteric abilities or anything like that?
I just think I've come to a place where, based on, you know, my upbringing, my grandmother was very much into Egypt and read me H.P. Blavatsky and Edgar Cayce and things growing up, which ignited this interest in mysticism in the first place. Then I was a magician performing for many years, close up and stage magic.
Really?
And I was bigger magician's assistants. Yeah. So I've always had this interest in the mystery. But so the mystic is really just the grown up magician, right? No, I don't think I have anything extra that anyone else, you know, other than anyone else would have. I just have honed in this practice of of taking these mushrooms at high dose and trying to figure out how to take lessons from them and share that with people I care for. I don't run retreats. I don't do multiple people. It's always one-on-one with me, and I don't charge people to do it. It's just one of those things where when someone's ready or they need it, then we just go do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not on a billboard. Can't sign up anywhere. It's just something we do. No, man, I don't feel like there's no title or anything like that. Like, I just facilitate these experiences. And I'm also very careful with titles. Like, I see people call themselves shamans and stuff like that. And I mean, my personal understanding is that's like calling yourself an Indian chief. It's a cultural term, mm-hmm. So if you administer some form of plant medicine, I would never call myself a shaman or anything like that. I would just say I facilitate these experiences.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I had this channeler on, Julia's channeling, and she's pretty big. She mm-hmm. travels and talked to her, and she was just talking about when we give ourselves a title, and even Bruce Lee said this, when you create a style, and it becomes a topic, and then it becomes the gospel, you crystallize growth to some extent.
So they're saying are you saying that a title is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I was saying it's a bad thing because you're complacent to that title.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that, but I think that's how I feel. Like, I don't think there's a need for it.
That's interesting. Maybe that's a natural. Because I told you when I looked at your eyes, I thought you're an old soul because they're very rich. Your eyes are very rich, dark color. And that comes from a lot of natives, a lot of Native Americans and so forth. Now, you said you had some natives in you?
Yeah, my father in some capacity. I haven't talked to him since I was a child, so I don't really know to what extent or any real details, unfortunately. But yeah, there was native on my father's side. I think it was Cherokee, but again, I can't really confirm.
It just popped in my head just that you were part of the Osage. Your dad was part of the Osage tribe. Osage, they were in Oklahoma. They were the ones that Leonardo DiCaprio played in that movie about them. Mm-hmm. That was the Osage tribe. Osage tribe and Cherokees were very connected. Because I had a W.T. Whitaker. He was a Cherokee guy, and he was like my great-great-grandfather or something. And he was in Asheville, but he moved to Oklahoma and started an orphanage out there. So there was some combination between the Asheville Cherokees and that area and going back and forth from Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not. That's just what popped in my head. Sometimes these things that pop in my head are usually right. But
well, I'm very drawn to the native culture, and it's like the land, going out on the land and nurturing that, and meditating on the land, and becoming familiar with this one space and the animals in that space who live there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really important to me in these ceremonies. I go to the same space, of course, unless it's in another country or on vacation or something like that. But here it's the same spot.
Now, Ed, you married? Got kids?
I have a fiance. No kids.
No kids. Gotcha. You gonna have a few?
Oh yeah. Hey, you got some kids, don't you?
Yeah, I got a daughter, 19. She's at Ole Miss. Yeah, she's the one and only Mariana Kozma. Love her. She's great. She's a sweetheart. So when you think about family, think about moving forward, you did say something about how you want to craft yourself around and be somewhat of a spokesperson for the mushrooms. What does that look like for you?
I mean, it's partly in helping people understand and educate them on how long this has been a thing, right? How long this has been a sacrament, you know what I mean, and a medicine. It's not just a chocolate bar and a microdose and a course you can take and sign up for, and a retreat you can go to with 13 other people and pay $5,000. It's much deeper than that, you know what I mean? And it's also, there's a lot of things that I do that I wouldn't encourage someone who's just getting started to do. Like, I go to these journeys when I'm most stressed out, you know what I mean? When the world is most on me, and it's dangerous to go in there in that space if you're not familiar with it, because that's when you have these bad trips. But that's when I'm able to purge energy, physical things, get blockages out, and kind of get back to myself. I feel like the mushroom ceremony takes me back to that feeling I had as a child before the hypnosis got on me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Hypnosis can be good, bad, whatever, but I feel like it pulls us away from that thing that we started with that was just right in the beginning. You know what I mean? And then you get back to the child, that youthful spirit. And that's what the mushrooms do for me, man. They take me back to remind me to be kind, be good to people, spread good energy on purpose, and continue to be a student forever. You know what I mean? Like, don't stop learning, don't stop growing and evolving. That's what I get mostly from the mushrooms. So whether it's, I've said this a couple times, whether it's in my head and it's all hallucination and all make believe, or if it's something that you're dealing with outside of your mind, either way works fine for me. And I don't claim either way. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I do know that the side effects, positive side effects in reality, are great regardless of what the actual facts are.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you go into the ceremony, do you protect yourself? Do you be like, hey, I'm protected by light, or do you put yourself in a box or that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I have passage. It's like a prayer. It's an intention thing that I read. I keep it private for these experiences specific. I would share it with you on the side. I just don't read it like on podcasts and stuff. But I do that first. That sets the intention, sets the tone. You know what I mean? Like I do that. I meditate before we take the medicine. We take it. And then I put 3 crystals in a triangle. 3 crystals my mother gave me around 2 air mattresses in front of a fire. So I say within the symbol, in front of the fire, deep in the forest to find my mind, right? That's kind of like what I say about this experience. But within that triangle, I feel protected, you know, and I actually put, just to add mojo to the space, I put my mother's ashes below a crystal she gave me right in front of the fire. And it's crazy on these full moon ceremonies how the moonlight just hits this crystal, you know, and it's like, it feels like this triangle of protection for sure. And again, you know, I'm just doing what feels right intuitively. I'm not claiming that these things work. Maybe it's all in my head, but either way, I still come out happier, kinder, and ready to do what I can to be a better person and make the world better.
Well, that's one thing for me. Like, I think through the years, initially, I was a little rough around the edges, you know, but I was always that poker player, but people would perceive me wrong just because I was very like blunt, very itch in the mouth type, you know, and never felt that highly sensitive side or, you know, and I think in this day and time, I've tried to be a little more sensitive to people, if you will, you know, because more people have gotten more sensitive. Do you think having this poker face, people perceive you the wrong way?
No, I mean, because I'll save it, you know, and I like to say people like you and I have to be professionally bipolar, right? Like you have to have the ability to snap in and out of business and kindness very quickly, right? And that in its own is a form of like mental karate, you know what I mean? To just be able to shift and turn that on and off. So the poker face is necessary until it's time to smile, you know what I mean? To make sure we guard ourselves against what this person might be bringing to the table. Is it difficult for me? Nah, because I'll convey that my energy is good, but I'm not here to play with that, you know what I mean? Or negotiate that.
Yeah.
We're here to handle some business and that's it.
Yeah. And where you think you get that acumen from, drive acumen? Because it seems like you lead. People that lead or they're out front of their own narrative. So instead of waiting to respond to people's narratives, there's 2 different things. And I feel like you lead your narrative. What has made you that way? Is that innately in you? You always been that way?
I've always been that way. And I don't know if there's any form of like ADHD or something like that. I don't really know what all the different titles mean, but there's something going on because I stay very, I mean, at the end of the day, I walk around the bed until I can lay down. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it is my mother. She was very much the kinder type of person, but the go and keep going and leading the narrative like you're referring to, I think that comes from my mother's side of the family. Like all her brothers are a lot like that. So I would say it's within me, and I've just taken it in this lane.
And do you think you and Yellow Wolf, you know, I always say tone attracts tone. Do you think you and Wolf attracted because y'all do have this like Native American type connection?
100%. I mean, you know, I don't know what it is that drew us together, whether it's like a Native American connection or just some kind of, you know, we've done this before in other lifetimes. Me and Wolf have a very special connection. It's different than I have with most people. You know what I mean? It's a familial vibe, like family, brother, but it feels like we've done this before. Yeah. It's very unique for sure. Even a friendship outside of just managing him, it's a very unique symbiotic friendship that I don't really experience with anyone else. So we're both thankful, and I'm blessed that that's the situation, because I know a lot of people say that like you separate business and friendship. With us, I think it has to be this way. You know what I mean? We function really well together because of this. I think we're both a little out there, and that's probably why, you know, tone attracts tone, like you said. And I think we're kind of on the same frequency.
So when you got in this position and you started dealing with some of these bigger acts, you know, what is maybe one of the craziest incidents where you experienced with an act, or an act you wanted to meet, you met? Is there anything that you've resonated with, or anything that sticks out to you when you started this, you know, running the show?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that, you know, we've met a lot of incredible people, a lot of really successful people. You know, one time I went with Wolf to hang with the Waltons, who own Walmart. That was crazy. We flew on some fighter jets and flew upside down and did all kinds of crazy stuff we're not used to, which inspired me when I came back. We were doing a meet and greet, and the people who were facilitating the meet and greet wanted us to pull up in an SUV, and I wanted Wolf. It's when we were releasing Sometimes Why. I mean, we both did, but I was really pushing the agenda for, after we hung out with the Waltons, I wanted to fly him in on a helicopter to do this meet and greet at a liquor store. And at first, everybody thought I was crazy, and I just stood on it, and we ended up flying into the liquor store in a helicopter. That was pretty cool. There's been all kinds of incredible things. I mean, as you know, you're from the same world. Just moments of, you know, I remember when we first met 3 6 Mafia, like they invited us in the booth booth to sing, do background vocals on a hook. And that was just a moment of like, what in the world is going on right now? Like, we grew up on those guys. What are we doing in the booth with all of them right now? Just me and Wolf. There's been a lot of moments where you want to pinch yourself and ask, am I really here right now? Is this really going on?
Yeah, interesting. So it's, I mean, when you get in the game and you're outside looking in, it changes a little bit, you know, and it looks a little bit different in the interior. And you just realize that, is there any acts that were different than what you expected? A big act?
Worked on a video with Kevin Gates years and years ago. I can't even remember what year it was. It was funny because he said, he had that whole campaign, I don't get tired. I don't know if you're familiar with Kevin or not, but his whole campaign, his whole campaign was, I don't get tired. This is way back. And I drove all the way to Miami to shoot this feature video with my partner, David. We get there, and right when we're set up and ready to go, Gates calls the artist and says, man, I can't make it. I just flew in. I'm tired. I said, can I see the phone? Like, I don't really know him like that, but can I talk to him real quick? So I grabbed the phone and said, what up, Kev? I said, I thought you don't get tired. And he said, I'm on my way. And he came through, and it was just him, his DJ, and his wife. Zero security, nothing. It was really, really humbling to see him come in like that.
Yeah.
When I tell you, he walked up to every single person, eye to eye, even the guy holding the light that, you'd miss if you didn't look close enough. You know what I mean? He walked up to every single person, asked them their name, introduced himself, and it was a pleasure to work with. That experience stood out to me.
Tell me a little about, I know you have the cigar line. Tell me a little bit about the cigars and what you're doing with the cigar line.
So the cigars are called Murder by Edward Crowe, and the murder comes from a group of crows. 3 or more crows is considered a murder, not a flock. So someone called me a while ago and wanted to do a cigar for Yellow Wolf. I took it to him. He said he didn't really want to do a cigar, but he wanted me to do a cigar because I smoke them. He doesn't. And at the time, I was like, well, nobody's going to buy my cigar, but okay, cool. We'll do like a little side hustle. It'll be fun. So for about 2.5 years, I looked for the right cigar, the right tobacco, went through a couple of different companies trying to find it. Finally narrowed it down, found the right one. Took a while to get the right bands, the way we want. We wanted top quality. The boxes, the bands. My partner, Cairo Wolf, designed everything. The Murder logo, the boxes, the bands, everything. It's interesting because when we went to Smoking-O's Cigar Festival to launch the brand, I had this layover in Chicago, and I was coming directly from tour to go to this festival. And that flight was canceled out of Chicago, and there was no physical way for me to get there, and I hadn't slept because I was on tour. I slept maybe 2 hours. And then, so I jumped in a rental car and drove 13 hours to to Pennsylvania on 2 hours of sleep. Got there, walked into the warehouse because I had to pack the first order of cigars. I had to pack myself because I got there the night before the festival. So I drove in, me and my buddy Ian were there, and we're packing cigars, and they gave me a donut and a shot of tequila and cheers with me. And we packed those, and then we did the festival, and everything that I thought was going to be the reason they didn't like us is what they loved about us. So it was like a really interesting perspective because I went in assuming it was like a good old boys thing, and it was going to be difficult to squeeze our way into, but man, they welcomed us with open arms, and everybody loves the product. The guy from the VP of sales from Monte Cristo came over and said, I've been hearing about Murder all day. I sell over 6 million cigars a year. And he gave me his number and said he was interested to talk more. So we've got a lot of interest, a lot of good things going on with the cigar, some physical placements in Nashville. Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's something that I now see being much bigger than I originally thought it could be.
Well, I told Michael, when we talked about this, about your brand and helping you with your brand, just trying to figure out what that looks like. And I thought about cigars and chocolate, and the chocolates, the mushrooms, because there used to be a group, some friends of mine when I lived in LA for like 5 years in Brentwood. And I had some friends of mine, like near Beverly Hills and Rodeo. There's a group of guys like Rob Weiss who produced the Entourage and wrote Entourage, and then like my buddy Nate Blonde, a few other like guy that was married to one of the Kardashians. And there's almost like a culture, not Barker, the other one that was married to the same girl prior to Barker. He's been on the show since the beginning, I think. But maybe there's a tour within these cigar shops with a celebrity, like maybe every city you go to a cigar shop, find a celebrity that's from there, it's in town, come bring them in and do cigars and chocolate with them, in this cigar place. But there's kind of a culture that I saw in LA. I didn't see it in New York as much, maybe because it was displaced or whatever, but I definitely saw that type of culture. Have you thought about anything like that, about touring the cigar with different stores?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's something I'd like to get in motion. Right now, we're kind of tap dancing around the time it takes. These cigars, they have to cure for 120 days. So when we got our first order, we didn't realize how quick they were going to go and how well it was going to do. So we had to get another order in quick. And right now we're waiting on this next order to come because they're currently curing. You know what I mean? So it's something like between that and juggling the licenses that you're supposed to have. They have to come directly from our manufacturer or our online distributor to go to these physical locations. I can't personally sell them. I can give them away, which we don't want to do all day long. You know what I mean? But I can't sell them until I have the license. And that's something we're working on now. But in the meantime, we kind of have to dance around it and be careful.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think that's really, really, really an interesting idea. And I think it would be awesome. Cigar lounge tour and smoke with people and conversate and that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like kind of like how they did riding, like that show Riding in Cars. Or, where the driver would interview a celebrity, you can turn it into some content, that could be interesting. Because you don't see that. I mean, I haven't seen much cigar productions out there where people are focused on cigars. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything out there like that?
I've seen a couple podcasts, couple like Zoom groups that aren't necessarily publicized or anything like that or uploaded anywhere. It's just in real time.
Yeah.
No, man, I haven't personally seen anything like that. And I think it's a great idea. The cigar culture is big on a story. You know what I mean? Like, what is the story behind the cigar? They want to smoke and talk about it.
Where do you want to see Ed Crowe in the future? Where does Ed Crowe want to end up?
Extremely creative. Creativity is a therapy to me, so it's something that for many years I kind of put on the back burner. And now I feel like it's important for my balance, for me to be able to stay afloat. As you talked about stress earlier, I need the ability to be creative. Sometimes it's photography. Sometimes it's just cutting a trail in the forest. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's these ceremonies or writing these intentions. But where do I see myself in 5 years? A more knowledgeable, healthier, more equipped version of myself that's more evolved and able to carry this mission that I'm on even further than I can currently. I feel like there's no something that I want that I don't already have. I just see myself with more gas on the fire. You know what I mean? Just exactly where I'm at now, but just more honed in, more chiseled, more
keeping
polished.
that passion.
Right. Keeping that passion.
Well, it's like, I toured, we did 700 shows, and I got a little burnout after 700 shows, doing 150, 200 shows a year. Got a little burnout, got a little bored. Sometimes finding that inspiration again when you operate at a high level is tough.
All the way. You have to pivot sometimes. To your point, you got to pivot, you know what I mean? And figure out what can offset that to find that balance again. Because you're right, you can get burnt out and lose the passion for something if you're not careful.
I told Michael too, I said, Ed, this is what I have a hard problem with, is putting myself first, right? Like when I do this podcast or whatever, in my periphery, in my mind, even though I have a podcast and it's doing decent, I don't even think about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about all this other shit. I probably should be focused. So I think you're going to have to realize how to put Ed Crowe first, right? As the identity, as the brand, because you're pushing identities to help everybody else. You're going to do that for yourself, which I have a hard time doing for myself.
I've always had a hard time doing that for myself. And the catalyst was my mother always saying, you got to remember to be creative. I come from a background of theater arts, visual arts, of art in general, creativity. That's how me and Wolf met, was graffiti. That was literally the first conversation we had, was over a black book, and it was the first thing I said to Wolf is, do you write? And then we started painting together. Yeah, creativity, man, is definitely my therapy. That's how I find my balance.
You seeing color then? You see colors?
My buddy Cairo has actually said that to me before. He said he sees colors. I don't know if I do or not, but I do know that I'm driven by creativity for sure.
Maybe that's your focus century. I always say that, first thing is you got to decalcify your pineal gland, right? Cut out all the fluoride, start doing Sinaga eye drops, decalcify that because that enhances your sensibilities. And then once you do that, it helps you understand where your focus sensibility is. Because I think everybody has a focus sensibility somewhere else,
Right.
Whether it's your eyes, auditory, feeling, whatever it is. I just had a sense that yours is a visionary type of thing, colors and spectrum.
It definitely is. It's like when I go to a restaurant, I almost can't order food unless there's photos of the meals. You know what I mean? I always choose something that there's a picture of. Everything is visual. I might say, how you looking? You know what I mean? Meaning like, you almost done with that email? You know what I mean? It's like visual references. So I think, to your point. Then I had a guy come out, Ryan, we did some ceremonies, and he was, throwing notebooks at me and drums and singing bowls and just like creative overload, like really creative dude, paints murals. And we were doing these ceremonies and he kept giving me things to be creative. And by the end, we had done all these different things. And that was kind of the catalyst to remind me to be creative again. At the end of the thing, he said, I don't even really know why I came here. We continued playing the bowls and writing in our journals. And then he said, I know why I came now. I said, why? He said to remind you to be creative. And that's what he didn't know this at the time, but that's what my mother had been telling for so long while I was dealing with just this business and didn't have anything to balance it out. And I was turning into someone with a chip on my shoulder. So when I found that ceremony and that balance with creativity, now I'm able to walk through this path a little more, less acidic, you know?
Gotcha. And I guess the last thing, I didn't ask you about the Eminem and Wolf relationship. Does Wolf ever touch on that relationship at all? Because I know they kind of parted ways, and I don't know, I guess Eminem really liked Wolf, didn't he? Because I mean, I listened to Wolf rap on this new stuff with that Amnesia album. I mean, he's good. I mean, you don't hear too many guys that can rap like that.
No,
Does he ever talk about that relationship?
That relationship, I mean, they had a great relationship. You know, then Wolf fulfilled his obligation. I think it was six albums off the top of my head. I could be incorrect. It was, you know, he fulfilled his agreement and moved on past that. And, you know, M was a busy dude. Wolf is a busy dude. So, you know, they're good. They're friends. Everything is good. But I don't know as far as them talking or anything like that. I don't know anything about that.
Now Wolf, he's still in Nashville?
Yep. Yeah, he's based out of Nashville. Going on tour in November. So
yeah, November. Yeah, the big tour. You got 12 big shows, and we're helping out selling those 12 big shows. And in the merch, you know, we did that campaign with the merch scarves, and they did very, very well. I mean, I think you got a hell of an upside, even more, because I think too you picked up, I don't know, 9,000 new followers on the account since we started.
It's working.
Yeah. So if we want to find stuff on Ed Crowe about the cigars and mushrooms, how do we find you and look for your information?
EdwardCrowe.com is the best place. Everything is there. Cigars, merchandise, everything we have going on with the brand is on EdwardCrowe.com. Instagram, you can find me at Edward.Crowe. Crowe has an E at the end. CROWE. That's the two best places to find me.
Awesome. Well, I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you coming on the show. My name is John Edmonds Kozma, CEO of Bang Productions, owner of the TikTok Live Creator Network Agency, and host of the Unimpressed Podcast. Until next time, thank you.